Hi, I'm Chris. After suffering from chronic fatigue syndrome for 6 years, I fully recovered. I created this healing program to guide and support you on your healing journey from ME/CFS, fibromyalgia, long COVID, and related post-viral fatigue syndromes. If you haven't watched the previous videos in this series, I recommend starting from the beginning, as each video builds on the last. You can find them for free at my website at healing-space.online. In the last video, we learned that our illness itself has become a major source of stress. We discovered that as long as we continue reacting to stressors, symptoms, and our condition in the same unhelpful, stress-inducing ways, we remain trapped in a vicious stress cycle that makes recovery and healing impossible. In this video, we'll explore how to break free from this vicious stress cycle, allowing us to move towards healing from CFS, fibromyalgia, and post-COVID syndrome. Before we begin, I want to clarify that I'm not a doctor, psychologist, or therapist. However, as a qualified mindfulness and MBSR teacher who has personally experienced and healed from CFS, I believe a systematic and evidence-based approach can help us move towards a path of healing. In previous lessons, we explored how excessive chronic stress can lead to dysregulation of our autonomic nervous system. This dysregulation of our autonomic nervous system results in numerous symptoms and marks the onset of our illness. The problem is that we often react to these symptoms in ways that add even more stress. For example, we might resist or fight against our symptoms, feeling frustrated and wishing them away, which is entirely natural, but ultimately increases our stress load. This combination of emerging symptoms and stress-inducing reactions keeps us trapped in a vicious stress cycle. It continually triggers our stress reaction, further disrupting our autonomic nervous system and keeping us stuck in a constant state of stress. The problem is that we cannot heal in a constant state of stress. For true healing to occur, we need to be in a calm and relaxed state, the parasympathetic rest and digest state. That is why in this video we'll focus on breaking this vicious stress cycle and restoring balance to our autonomic nervous system. Healing can only happen when we are in a calm and relaxed state, known as the parasympathetic rest and digest state. By activating our parasympathetic response, we can shift from being in a state of stress to a state of calm, allowing our autonomic nervous system to fall back into balance and function normally. I'm deeply convinced that once we have broken the vicious stress cycle and bring our autonomic nervous system back to normal functioning, our symptoms and illness will naturally begin to improve. So, how do we break this vicious stress cycle and move towards healing? The key lies in replacing our harmful automatic reactions with mindful responding. In essence, we need to change how we react to the things that are happening in our lives. Whether it's an everyday stressor, our symptoms, or our illness, we must start responding in a more considerate, mindful, and calm way. This means becoming aware of our automatic, stress-inducing reactions and replacing them with helpful, stress-relieving, mindful responses. This shift allows us to move from a constant state of stress to one of calm and balance, creating the conditions necessary for healing and recovery. As we've previously learned, only 10% of the stress we experience is determined by the stressor, event, or situation itself. The remaining 90% depends on how we react to the stressor, event, or situation. This means that when we react to a stressor in harmful ways, we will experience significantly more stress than when we respond to the very same stressor in a calmer, more mindful way. For instance, we might have a flare-up in symptoms. This would be a stressor. We might automatically react to it, thinking, "Oh, I feel so exhausted again. I can't stand it. Why is this happening again? I intentionally didn't do much yesterday and yet I feel terrible. What is wrong with me? Why can't my body just work normally?" This way of reacting to the flare-up is understandable, but it just increases our stress. The one thing we already have too much of. So what we need to do is to respond to the flare-up in a different, healthier and less stressful way. For instance, we could respond the following way. I notice the sensation of exhaustion in my body. I know that my body has been under too much stress for too long, so this is just my body telling me that it needs more rest. It's okay to feel this way, even though this moment is difficult. Is it possible for me to simply allow it? Can I be here for me and my body, not fighting against it, but approaching this challenge with self-compassion, knowing that I'm doing my best in this moment? Can you see how this second approach to the same flare-up, the same stressor, results in significantly less stress? Can you see how this way of responding is much healthier because it will result in less stress compared to the first way of reacting? So, whatever the stressor, we start to respond in healthier ways to them. Whether the stressor is illness-related, such as a flare-up, fatigue, or pain, or whether the stressor is coming from everyday life, such as a difficult communication, loud noise, traffic jam, or bright lights. We train to respond to those stressors in healthier ways. Because we start responding to stressors in healthier and less stress-inducing ways, the same stressors now lead to less stress. In other words, our stress load now starts to decrease, alleviating pressure on our system. As our stress level starts to decrease, our stress threshold starts to raise again, making us somewhat more stress resistant. This, in turn, will then improve our symptoms. Of course, we might still feel fatigued and have symptoms, but they might be a little bit less intense. This noticeable improvement in our symptoms is of course a big motivation for us to keep up with our practice of responding to stressors in a calmer and healthier way. These less intense symptoms, of course, still are stressors. We might still feel somewhat fatigued, have some pain or discomfort in our body, and might still have flare-ups. But because we keep practicing relating to all stressors, whether they are illness-related or not, in healthy and mindful ways, we keep reducing the stress impact they have on us. Our stress load decreases further, which in turn, once again, raises our threshold, making us somewhat more stress resilient and decreasing the intensity of our symptoms once again. This cycle continues until eventually our stress load becomes smaller than our stress threshold. This is the pivotal moment when our autonomic nervous system returns to balance and begins functioning properly again. As the autonomic nervous system regains normal functioning, the many body systems it regulates also start to work as they should. In other words, virtually all body systems and organs start to work normally again. These include the immune system, hormonal system, musculoskeletal system, digestive system, cardiovascular system, respiratory system, reproductive system, urinary system, and even skin functions. This restoration brings our body back to proper functioning and energy levels. As all systems recover and work as intended, symptoms diminish and the illness itself naturally fades away. At this point, we are predominantly back in the parasympathetic rest and digest state, the state where our body functions at its best. In this balanced state, we no longer feel ill and have effectively healed from our stress-related condition. This shows that the same vicious stress cycle that contributed to our illness can indeed be reversed. In my view, and as you can hopefully see, the solution isn't found in a specific treatment or medicine. Instead, it lies in becoming aware of our habitual ways of reacting and learning to replace them with mindful, intentional responses. This approach is one of the most effective ways to reduce stress, which is the root cause of our illness. Rather than focusing on our symptoms and trying to make them disappear, the solution is within us, in how we respond to the events and challenges in our lives. The key is to recognize our unhelpful reactions to stressors and replace them with healthier, more constructive responses. While chronic fatigue syndrome, fibromyalgia, and post-COVID syndrome are caused by a complex interplay of our genetics, our conditioning, multiple stressors, and our reactions to those stressors, the most crucial factor for healing is our reactions to stressors. By becoming aware of our unhelpful automatic reactions and replacing them with mindful responses, we can move towards healing. So, how can we replace our habitual but harmful automatic reactions with mindful responding? The answer is mindfulness. In order to recognize and change our stress-inducing reactions, we need to learn and practice mindfulness. Mindfulness is an effective tool that allows us to become aware of our unhealthy automatic reactions and replace them with mindful responding. According to mindfulness-based stress reduction, MBSR, there are 8 common types of reactions that tend to be stress-inducing and unhelpful. Becoming aware of these patterns and replacing them with mindful responses is a highly effective way to reduce stress, as demonstrated by numerous scientific studies. Now, let's take a closer look at these 8 harmful automatic reactions and how we can replace them with healthier responses. We practice replacing judgment with non-judgment. Embracing experiences without trying to change them or label them as good or bad. For instance, at work, you might think, I shouldn't have made that mistake in the report. I'm so bad at this. We practice to become aware of this and replace this harmful automatic reaction with a mindful response, such as, for instance, I noticed that I made a mistake in the report, and I'll correct it. Regarding our illness, instead of thinking, I shouldn't be this tired all the time, We practice observing our symptoms without adding negative comments. So instead, we might think, I notice that I feel very tired right now. By acknowledging the symptoms without judgment, we reduce additional emotional stress and allow ourselves to approach our condition with more compassion and acceptance. This can create a calmer mental state, reducing our stress, which brings us onto the path of healing. The same logic applies to all other patterns. So we practice replacing impatience with patience, allowing things to unfold in their own time without rushing or feeling irritated. While waiting in traffic, you might think, why is this taking so long? I'm going to be late. We practice to replace this with a mindful response, such as, traffic is part of my commute and I'll get there when I can. Regarding our illness, instead of thinking, why am I not getting better faster? We practice to replace this with, healing takes time and that's okay. We practice replacing expert mind with a beginner's mind, approaching situations with openness and curiosity, as if seeing them for the first time. When trying a new hobby, you might think, I already know I'm not good at this. We practice to replace this with a mindful response such as, I wonder what I'll learn or enjoy from this experience today. Regarding our illness, instead of thinking, I already know everything there is to know about my condition, we practice to replace this with, what can I learn from this healing program? We practice replacing distrust with trust. This is having confidence in oneself and the process, believing that things will work out as they should. Starting a new job, you might think, I'm not sure I'll succeed in this role. We practice to replace this with a mindful response, such as, I trust my abilities and that I'll learn what I need to succeed. Regarding our illness, instead of thinking, this program or advice probably won't make any difference, we practice to replace this with, I trust this program's process and will give it my full effort. We practice replacing striving with non-striving. Being content with where you are and what you have, without constantly seeking more. While exercising, you might think, I have to push harder to meet my fitness goals. We practice to replace this with a mindful response, such as, I'll move at the pace that feels good for my body today. Regarding our illness, instead of thinking, I must return to my previous level of activity and productivity, we practice replacing this with, I accept my current limitations and will adapt my activities accordingly. We practice replacing resistance with acceptance. Embracing what is happening without trying to change or fight against it. When plans are cancelled, you might think, this is so frustrating. I really needed this to happen. We practice to replace this with a mindful response such as, this is disappointing, but I'll make the best of my evening as it is. Regarding our illness, instead of thinking, I can't believe this is happening to me, I need to fight my illness, we practice to replace this with, this is my current situation, and I accept it for now and will work with it as best as I can. We practice replacing clinging with letting go. Releasing attachment to thoughts, feelings, or experiences, allowing them to come and go naturally. After an argument, you might think, I can't stop replaying what I said and how they reacted. We practice to replace this with a mindful response, such as the argument happened and I let it settle without holding on to it. Regarding our illness, instead of thinking, I miss my old life so much, I can't believe I can't do the things I used to love. We practice to replace this with, I may not have my old life right now, but there are still things I can enjoy and appreciate in this stage of my life. And finally, we practice replacing self-criticism with self-compassion. Treating oneself with kindness and understanding, especially in times of difficulty or failure. After forgetting something important, you might think, I'm so disorganized. I can't do anything right. We practice to replace this with a mindful response, such as, it's okay to forget things sometimes. I'll make a note to remember next time. Regarding our illness, instead of thinking, everyone else seems to manage their lives better than I do, we practice to replace this with, everyone has their own struggles, and I am dealing with mine in the best way I can. After exploring these 8 mindful attitudes, I hope you can see how adopting them helps create a mental and emotional environment that reduces stress and supports healing. Each shift aligns with the principles of mindfulness-based stress reduction, MBSR, and has been shown to improve the management of chronic conditions like CFS, fibromyalgia, and long COVID. By cultivating these attitudes, we can break the cycle of stress and pave the way for balance, resilience, and healing. While mindfulness is at the heart of healing, the next video will explore additional factors that can support us on this journey. If you'd like to continue, you can watch the complete introductory video series for free on my website at healing-space.online. This video series is designed to support you in healing from CFS, fibromyalgia, post-COVID syndrome, and related syndromes. If you found this video helpful, please like, share, and follow. Thank you, and see you in the next video.